That's a $114,000 truck. But it also accelerates 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds, according to our testing.
Yeah.
It does a quarter mile in 12.2. I don't think a Mercedes SUV behind this can do that.
As I was driving the EQS SUV,
Yeah.
it dawned on me. I'm driving something that's, $150,000.
Mm-hmm.
And Mercedes went out of their way to set up an off-road track. I shot in Andre's pit with this thing, and it was capable. And it got me to thinking about our last discussion, the $75,000 Toyota Tundra. And this is a trend we're seeing. You got Denali's, obviously Escalades for 20 years, Navigators for 25 years, and now electric SUVs that are crazy expensive and going off-road. Where is all this going?
We will see higher optioned, more capable trucks, pickup trucks and SUVs, like you said. And they will continue to be more luxurious, more feature-rich, and more capable, I think, on the road, and in some trucks' case, also for towing, right? Not all of them are going to be for towing, but I think there is still a huge trend to make these SUVs more off-road capable, or to see, to have that image of off-road capability.
Is it just SUVs, or is it SUVs and pickup trucks?
Definitely pickup trucks as well. So let's just look. So last time we were together, we looked at the Capstone Tundra, right? Toyota created an entire new trim level they called Capstone, just to capture that kind of next level luxury trim for themselves. In my perspective, that Tundra, it felt like a Lexus almost inside. Would you agree?
Absolutely. In fact, they used the grade of leather from the LS.
And 75 grand was the price approximately. But that's nowhere near the top, right?
But isn't that just too much for a Toyota Tundra?
But it's still a deal when you compare it to, for example, a new 2022 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali Ultimate. They've created a new trim they call the Denali Ultimate.
What does that give us?
Well, it gives us, once again, wonderful interiors, lots of tech, Super Cruise, which is semi-autonomous driving, hands-off driving on highways.
Level 2.
That truck, that Sierra, can still haul a lot of payload, can still tow a trailer up to about 9,000 pounds.
And how much is that?
It's in the 80s now.
To start?
So, like, when you check that Denali Ultimate box, right, it's about 81,000. Then you can, the only thing you can choose is basically the color, I think the trim around the fenders you could change, and the wheel options.
I would argue in the entire team, you are the man that knows trucks. That's why you're the editor of TFL Truck.
I focus on it.
If you were being honest, which one has a better interior, this Denali Ultimate or that Capstone?
Ooh.
Tough
You know what?
question.
I would put the Capstone a little bit higher. So
And why is that? The build quality or the execution or the design?
No, up to 22. They had the previous interior that few people liked. Okay.
It was terrible.
Yes.
You had to wear sunglasses getting into that vehicle because it was brighter than the sun right now.
But it was also like kind of monochromatic, right? It was all mostly, dark colors, and the screens were a little bit smaller. So they redesigned it, and they did a great job. So the latest Denali Ultimate has a new interior, bigger screens, a little bit more stylish. But I think still you have to throw a little bit more color into it. Maybe some stitching, or maybe some wider inserts or different color inserts. And I think Toyota did a better job maybe at that.
Now, it's no secret, Ram has overtaken that second spot with the current generation of Ram. I would argue it's a big function of that interior, but you're the expert. Was it the interior, or is it something else Ram is doing?
Well, 2019, they just kind of caught the industry almost by surprise. Their new truck in 2019 was very, very strong. They maintained their V8 engines. They kind of perfected their powertrains. They created a beautiful interior and different trim levels. Like, they differentiated the different, like the Ram Rebel was their off-road truck, right? And then later the TRX, of course, came.
But isn't everybody else doing that?
Yes, but I think their execution was just that a little bit better.
So again, it's execution,
I think so.
even with what we can consider a domestic.
But the thing is, with pickup trucks, a lot of consumers are brand focused.
More so than cars, obviously.
I think so. So if you purchased Ram in the past, you're likely to purchase it again.
So it's unusual that Ram would leapfrog General Motors. Are those buyers coming out of General Motors products, or there's just new people coming into the segment and they decided to go to Ram?
It's a little hard to say. There is not quite enough data. I'm sure there's, obviously the manufacturers have a lot of that data. For me at TFL, it's a little bit more hard to see all that data and get access to it. But I think, first of all, the overall consumer base for pickups is growing because they're getting nicer, right? So it's no longer a penalty to get into a pickup truck.
So that brings us to an important question. Is the truck segment growing within itself? Meaning the folks who bought trucks in the past, they're just moving up to expensive trucks? Or is the truck segment, including pickup trucks, attracting people that used to buy an S-Class or used to buy an LS500?
I think it's the latter a little bit more. So I think new people are coming into this space for pickups especially. I know this is not along the discussion of the premium luxury pickups, but now we have the Hyundai Santa Cruz. We have the Ford Maverick. Right now the Ford Maverick, I believe this calendar year in 2022 already, and we're in September, they sold upward of 50,000 Ford Mavericks in this few months.
Wouldn't you say that's a function of it's $20,000? You can't even buy like a Civic for that.
Yeah, but you cannot find a $20,000 Maverick either. But it is lower priced, right?
It's kind of like the $35,000 Tesla Model 3.
Yeah, it exists on paper, but it doesn't quite exist in reality. But I think that's bringing a lot of people in because once they're in, maybe they want to move up in the pickup truck ladder, right? Maybe get a mid-size truck, a full-size truck, something else. Let's talk about Ram again. Ram introduced another trim called Limited Elite. Do you see what I'm saying?
Stupid. Denali Ultimate Limited Elite. Just call it the one we're trying to pilfer more money out of your wallet edition.
They're just adding adjectives. They are putting crystal design in the shifter. You've seen BMW do this.
I know exactly what this is, but I'm blown away that it would be in a Ram pickup truck.
So it's maybe not the same execution as a BMW or a Volvo, but it's almost getting to that place.
BMW does it also on the seat adjusters in the iX. I personally think it is a nightmare involving Liberace, the interior of that car. So now apparently Liberace's driving pickup trucks.
He's getting there.
He apparently is. I got to talk to Ralph about this. Gotta have words with him. I think he's going off the deep end.
That's also approaching $80,000 range for a pickup truck.
I remember years ago when I used to feature Fords on the show. I was chatting with one of the Ford engineers, and he honestly said to me, and I won't tell you his name, but he honestly said to me, a part of our job now is to make a $100,000 truck. And I'm like, why? He goes, because we can. That's it. It wasn't that people needed a $100,000 truck. There's so much price elasticity. Ford saw that, and at least from what I've seen, they're the ones that kind of started that trend, at least in pickup trucks. Is that correct? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, but I think there's another driving force.
What else?
I see. So we talked about the crystal adorned shift knobs, right? But where I see Ford is going specifically, and Ram and GM and others, is convenience. So the big thing about a pickup truck, at least for me, is independence, right? That's kind of the image, the American dream, where I can go on the ranch like this by myself. I can get some work done. So the technology that's in the truck needs to make my job or my day easier. And by that I'm talking about like automatic, push button tailgates. The tailgate lowers, I back up to my trailer if it's a gooseneck, right? So it goes in the bed. Then I push another button, the tailgate closes. Maybe the truck can help me with cameras, line up my trailer. I can load it up myself. Then it, does a test on all my lights.
But can't you accomplish that for $60,000?
Yeah, you can get out of the truck and do it yourself. You can actually walk in the back.
No, but some of this technology is not $80,000 expensive.
No, but it adds to it. I think the latest Super Duty. Let's take that. The heavy duty truck now.
Yeah.
Is adding heads-up displays. They're adding features like additional cameras to help, they already have 7 cameras. They're adding an 8th camera. But part of the driving force there is to make trailering easier, to make, loading the truck easier. They're adding steps to it, so you can climb into these tall trucks.
And how much of it is innovation of the bed? Is that a thing anymore? Like, how Ram's got the side boxes, and I saw your Lightning where the tailgate comes down, at least the one you borrowed from the dealer. It's got the ruler in it,
right.
And then it's got a step, and then you can literally run your house off of that Lightning.
Exactly.
How much of it is the bed innovation now?
There's still some of it, and still, the materials, like Toyota, for example, Tundra went to composite beds, right? So they're dent resistant, scratch resistant, all that stuff. Ford is still using aluminum, of course, in their beds. GM is steel, and some others like Ram are steel.
But true or false, is it now the fancy options, meaning crystal and that kind of stuff, that's moving the needle in that segment? Or is it still the bed wars of all the innovation in the bed? Which is moving the needle more?
I think on price, the interior and the tech inside is driving the price more.
Yeah.
The bed wars are still happening. The tailgate wars, who has the better step, or who has the better access. I think that war is getting close to being done. There's only so many ways you can open a step.
But that brings us to, I think, a big question. Does EV propulsion, put aside where the energy comes from, that's a discussion for a different episode. Does EV propulsion with pickup trucks and SUVs, does it change any of this? Does it change the deck in this expansion of premium trucks or bed wars, or does it just continue everything on the same trajectory?
Well, it changes the price war because batteries are still expensive. So let's take another vehicle that you recently had access to and you drove, the Hummer EV truck. It has a gigantic battery because it's a big vehicle in itself. So that was kind of the part of the design, right? They had to go over 300 miles of range, so it did have to have a big battery, about 212 kilowatt hours. It's huge. That costs money. But in addition to that, what do you think of the interior of the Hummer EV?
I thought the design was amazing. Like, they've done a great job of executing a toy, of executing something that is different. However, the execution, it still feels like a chintzy Chevrolet pickup truck on the inside.
So, like from like 5 feet away, you said
it's a 5-footer. It's great.
It's
like some of the details with like the space boot, and then the design of the dashboard is reminiscent of a Hummer back in the day. The feel of the shifter feels like a shifter from an ICE vehicle. The look of the screens look cool, but the UX froze up God knows how many times. It took us like 85 years to put it in crab walk. The execution's terrible. Oh, the one thing I did love though, oh my God, I felt like I was Burt Reynolds in a Trans Am with the T-tops. I love the T-tops.
Yeah, so that's a $114,000 truck. But it also accelerates 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds, according to our testing.
Yeah.
It does a quarter mile in 12.2. I don't think the Mercedes SUV behind this can do that. So you're combining speed, capability. It's got 4-wheel steering, lots of ground clearance. It's got a fairly, luxurious interior, let's say. Maybe not the best execution, of course.
It's playful.
It's playful. It is a toy.
It's got pageantry to the interior.
It's a toy. Yeah.
But I would somewhat disagree with you on this part.
What?
The Hummer is not an example of a premium pickup truck. The Hummer is an example of, hey, we already spent the money on the EV propulsion system, on the roller skate. Let's see what kind of specialty vehicle we can make without breaking the bank, and then see how many people buy them. And GM got a very positive reaction because what they did is they didn't put a special team on it. They took the folks who were designing the Corvette, and the minute they finished the Corvette, I'm not kidding you.
Right.
Zach told me this because he runs design.
Yeah.
He ran design for that thing.
Yeah.
They took the Corvette team. They designed that thing in 18 months. They finished the entire project in 18 months. That's record timing for any project, let alone a pickup truck. And then they turned it on the market and said, here, we're bringing this out. What do you think? They sold out that launch edition in 3 minutes for $112,000. So I look at that as different from this discussion in that it's proven there is a huge market for specialty vehicles built on platforms that will underpin serial production vehicles, like the Silverado, which is what that comes from.
I would disagree slightly because we talked about specialty trucks and capability.
We
right?
disagree in a lot of areas, because what we found out today, after knowing each other for many years, his grandfather worked for Tupolev,
Yes.
and my father worked for the competitor on the U.S. side at Grumman at the same time.
In the 60s and 70s
Exactly.
and 80s.
So you and I,
So,
we have a long history together
of competing.
of competing.
Yeah. So, where I was going is we talked about pricing in trucks, luxury in trucks, capability, and I would say Hummer has
I
that
have to interject
capability.
again. The audience must know that there is an RV6, which is not a recreational vehicle. It is an acrobatic airplane, and he has decided to do maneuvers over your ranch. So that's what you're hearing right now.
Aren't you based at an airport?
I am,
Okay.
and I finally get to the middle of nowhere.
So you feel at home?
Apparently, they want me to feel at home.
Okay. So
Anyway, go on.
No, so we talked about capability, and the Hummer adds capability. It has 15 inches plus of ground clearance. It's got locking differentials, or at least a simulated locker in the back and the real locker in the front. So it's adding that capability. It's kind of like GM's also their answer to the Raptor, right? The Raptor truck is this kind of very, very capable pickup truck focused on off-roading, right? And GM's answer, I would say in some ways, is the Hummer to that, even though it's higher priced.
Well, basically, you're in the same church, you're just in different pews, as opposed to being a temple across the street.
Yeah.
Or Tupolev and Grumman.
Right.
Do you see GM coming out with a direct Raptor competitor, meaning ICE?
No.
Why is that? Because they're doing the EV thing?
I have no idea. I've asked them many times, many years.
It feels like they're leaving money on the table.
I think so. I think what may have happened in the past, and this is my take on it, is that they saw it as a niche and a kind of a smaller niche, and they focused in other areas. And now they're investing heavily, of course, in electrification and all that stuff. And in a lot of ways, if you look at the specs on the Hummer EV truck, if you look at ground clearance, wheel travel, approach and departure angles, all those off-road specs, it's basically one for one trying to beat the Raptor. But they did the Cadillac V,
Which is
Escalade V.
But that goes back to what we were saying before. Ford said, we're going to make a $100,000 pickup because there's the price elasticity.
Sure.
Cadillac said, people are buying our truck for $125,000. Why don't we charge them $150,000? They already had the engine. It was easy to put in there. I take my hat off to them for doing it.
Yeah, Escalade V starts at around 150.
150,
like you said.
yeah.
So,
and they'll probably sell every one of them they can make. Now moving way up the spectrum, what people don't know is today's episode that went live today that we're shooting this on, what is this, September
25th-ish?
25th, 24th, something like that. I put up the Range Rover SV long wheelbase, $250,000. You think that's expensive? Turns out, no. Range Rover said we can charge more, so they came out with a Carmel edition, introduced it at Pebble Beach, $345,000. Granted, they only made 17.
And they're probably all sold out already.
They were sold out before they were introduced.
Yeah, so, and there's Bentley in this space, right?
Yeah, but Bentley I don't think is competitive in the space.
Bentayga.
The Bentayga.
There's now the updated Urus.
I don't think Ferrari would have been exposed to a life-threatening issue not doing SUV. They have so many people that will buy their cars sight unseen. They will sell out of anything they make. The SUV, I think, was just a money grab.
You think?
Yeah, it's a Roma-based money grab.
It wasn't pressured by competition, you don't think?
Not at all.
Okay.
Because, think about it. If you have a V12 Ferrari, they're sold out for their entire production run the minute they're introduced. And if you want to get one of those, the Ferrari folks make you buy. You know what? If you want the V12, you're going to buy a California this year, or you're going to buy a Roma next year, and then we'll sell you the V12. And then, oh, by the way, you only get to keep it for a year, and you have to sell it back to me at what you paid for. And then they resell it for over sticker. It's a different market. I don't think they needed it. I'm just one man, then we could turn that part around the audience. And you know what? This is where we get into I think we should turn this discussion around the audience at this point.
At TFL Truck, a lot of you people, a lot of you guys and gals tell us that 80,000, 70,000, 60,000, it's just not within reach for most folks, and it's natural, right? Of course, I get it because, at some level we're all in this
Yeah,
space
not
together.
everybody has the kind of money like you do to buy two Russian imported vehicles.
Yeah, I'm rolling in
You
in
are.
the dough.
Roman's paying you all that money.
But so I think we have to balance that $80,000 truck with the $45,000 truck, right? Somehow, because both must exist at the same time. So I would like to ask, what features would you live without, maybe?
That's
right?
a good question.
So, do you need a seat that lays down? Do you need a massaging seat, or do you need a heated steering wheel? What features you would live without to actually get that lower price? I think a simple truck doesn't need a lot. Just needs to have a good surround camera system to help you park and hook up trailers.
Yeah.
It needs really good headlights at night, and it needs four-wheel drive.
Kind of like a Buhanka.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
Buhanka doesn't have a lot of cameras.
No, it doesn't. Or really good lights. You heard the man. Let us know in the comments below or via our social media, MotoManTV, all one word, MotoManTV, all one word. And with that, I do want to leave a little bit behind the scenes here. Today, Saturday, 24th, 25th, we have had a very productive day. So we've shot this today with you, shot another episode with Nathan, and we also shot this. What is that?
Behind me, you see that weird car. It's a 1965 Gas 21 Volga. It's a sedan. It was basically at the top of the Soviet kind of civilian sedan market.
So below the Chaika.
Below the Chaika, because Chaika were government vehicles, basically, or officials for officials. And I purchased it about 8 months ago or 7 months ago, and I kind of made it roadworthy. So we test drove it around. It's going to be in TFL Classics, so you can check it out on our channel. And you got to drive it. Nathan got to drive it, and I got
And
your
we learned about
impressions.
how much you spent on it and what your future plans are. So go check out that episode over at TFL Classics, excuse me. Until we see you in the next episode, bis später.